Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes in life a woman has to stand alone, not because she desires solitude, but because the people around her may not resonate with the quality of her soul. While many seek companionship to chase away the loneliness, a woman who chooses to walk alone understands her strength and power. There is immense strength in walking alone. Independence and self-sufficiency aren't qualities that appear overnight. They are forged through experience, trials, and often moments of solitude. A woman who stands strong on her own doesn't just survive, she thrives. Her strength is not rooted in others, but comes from within. In a society that emphasizes companionship, we often forget the value of independence. Society suggests that we need a network to get through life, but not everyone is made to follow the crowd. A woman who embraces independence has learned to rely on herself, knowing that at the end of the day, she's the one who truly has her back. This self-sufficiency is not about rejecting others, but about understanding that relationships don't define her worth. She doesn't need friends to feel validated. Her worth is something she defines herself, something she carries each day. When she encounters challenges, she doesn't look to others for solutions. Instead, she trusts her instincts, her knowledge, and her experiences. This internal strength sets her apart from those who depend on the opinions of others for direction. A self-sufficient woman is unshakable. She doesn't crumble when people leave or when adversity strikes. Instead, she taps into a well of resilience she's cultivated over time. She knows that the one person she can always count on is herself, and that is more than enough. Independence also brings a level of freedom. She can walk her path, unburdened by the need for constant validation. Her life choices are her own, shaped by her beliefs and values, not by the trends or expectations of society. True independence requires confidence and self-awareness, qualities often obscured by a focus on pleasing others. A woman who chooses independence has learned to silence society's expectations. She listens to her own voice, makes decisions based on her needs, and aligns her actions with her authentic self. This independence empowers her. She doesn't depend on others for her happiness or well-being. She becomes her own guide, carving out her unique place in the world. Self-reliance extends to every area of her life, mentally, emotionally, and physically. She doesn't wait for someone to rescue her. She takes charge of her happiness, health, and future. She's powerful because she is self-sustaining, choosing relationships out of value rather than need. Independence strengthens her connections. When a woman is self-sufficient, she chooses relationships based on respect and mutual value, not on the need for validation. This balance leads to healthier, more meaningful connections. This freedom liberates her from the judgments and expectations of others, allowing her to walk her path confidently. A woman who is truly independent knows that she is enough on her own. In a world that often measures value by the quantity of relationships, a self-sufficient woman understands that quality is far more important. She knows that true connections are rare and chooses depth over breadth, seeking authentic relationships that nourish her. She values those who understand her deeply and support her growth. A self-sufficient woman isn't interested in shallow connections. She seeks real, meaningful conversations and bonds with people who see her for who she truly is. This mindset also gives her the courage to let go of relationships that no longer serve her. She doesn't cling to people out of fear of being alone. Instead, she's confident enough to release what no longer aligns with her path, understanding that quality relationships are worth waiting for. A woman who values quality knows that it's better to walk alone than to stay with people who drain her energy. Protecting her peace is more important than maintaining empty connections. When it comes to new relationships, she is patient. She takes time to understand people's intentions and ensures they align with her values. She's not seeking perfection, only authenticity. And if a relationship feels forced, she's willing to step back, knowing that true connection cannot be rushed. A woman who stands alone values depth, authenticity, and self-reliance. She's proof that walking alone can be a powerful choice, a path of resilience, confidence, and strength. And in doing so, she inspires others to find that same power within themselves. When a woman values quality over quantity, she liberates herself from the pressure to conform to societal expectations. Society often equates success with the number of friends, social invitations, and the appearance of connection. But a woman who prioritizes genuine relationships understands that this type of validation is empty. She isn't concerned with appearances. Instead, she focuses on building connections that bring real value to her life. In her quiet moments, she doesn't feel lonely, because the few relationships she maintains are rich and fulfilling. These are the people who stand by her in tough times, who offer support without question. Her confidence stems from knowing that meaningful connections are worth more than a large social circle. This approach enables her to be fully present with the people she values. Unlike those stretched thin by shallow friendships, she invests deeply in her closest bonds, creating relationships based on trust, respect, and understanding. Choosing quality over quantity isn't just a friendship decision. It's a lifestyle that embraces depth, authenticity, and real meaning. By understanding the importance of depth, a woman chooses real connections over popularity, walking her own path with assurance. She realizes that true value in relationships isn't in numbers, but in the strength and authenticity they hold. In solitude, she finds space for self-reflection and personal growth. Friendships can offer insight, but solitude allows her to understand herself on a deeper level, free from others' influences. This time alone strengthens her self-awareness, helping her to thrive independently. Living in a world of constant social interaction, solitude reconnects her with her true self. Often people define themselves by roles, but without these, she can explore who she really is. Solitude brings questions, like what do I want? What do I believe? Questions that demand honesty and courage to answer. In this stillness, she nurtures growth. Her self-awareness sharpens as she faces her strengths and weaknesses, making intentional choices for her life. Without the noise of external expectations, her inner voice grows clearer, guiding her toward independent thought and helping her see life through her own lens. She also confronts unresolved challenges. Without friendships as a distraction, she faces insecurities and unachieved goals directly, which leads to healing and a renewed strength. She lets go of past limitations and embraces the future, realizing her resilience. Each challenge met on her own reveals her resourcefulness, showing her she has the strength to handle life's ups and downs. This self-trust is priceless. A woman who trusts herself is unstoppable. Solitude not only gives her the space to overcome difficulties, but also the opportunity to celebrate her accomplishments. She can reflect on her journey and appreciate her progress without needing others' approval, building her confidence and reinforcing that she is enough. Through reflection, she gains clarity on her future, aligning her goals with her authentic desires. Rather than society's pressures, she becomes free to chart her course based on her values, not the expectations of others. Personal growth doesn't only occur with others around. Often the deepest transformations happen in solitude. When a woman takes time alone, she can reflect, reassess, and rebuild herself. This growth is quiet and gradual, not a quick change but a steady evolution. By nurturing her own spirit, she grows in ways that hold deep personal meaning. Solitude becomes a gift, offering a space for self-reflection and personal transformation that isn't available in the noise of the outside world. A woman with no friends doesn't lack connection. She has the most profound connection of all, the one with herself. She discovers that she doesn't need to conform to society's ideals to live a meaningful life. Society often links worth to social connections and popularity, but a woman who walks alone understands that her value isn't defined by how many people she knows or how often she's seen. Living authentically, despite societal expectations, takes immense strength. While society promotes fitting into a mold, involving constant socializing and wide networks, she knows her true worth goes beyond these superficial measures. Conformity is an easy trap to fall into. It's tempting to meet others' expectations rather than following one's heart. Yet a woman who walks her path alone sees past these pressures. She understands that her value lies not in how she meets society's standards, but in how well she aligns with her true self. This is the real measure of a fulfilling life. Society often tries to dictate how women should behave, who they should associate with, and the paths they should follow. But a woman comfortable in her solitude has freed herself from these constraints. She's no longer playing a role to fit into someone else's expectations. Instead, she's writing her own script, defining her own journey, and living on her own terms. This decision to live authentically often emerges after deep self-reflection and personal growth. A woman who has spent time alone and truly understands herself values the importance of staying true to who she is. She realizes that conforming to societal Expectations only leads to frustration, dissatisfaction, and a disconnect from her genuine self. By stepping away from the crowd, she aligns more closely with her passions, purpose, and personal goals. The freedom that comes from ignoring societal pressures is incredibly liberating. When a woman stops seeking approval from others, she gains the ability to focus on what truly matters to her. She no longer feels the need to follow the crowd to feel validated, confident in her choices. She's unafraid to walk a path that diverges from society's expectations. This self-assurance enables her to stand by her decisions, even when they challenge the status quo. Choosing to live authentically doesn't mean rejecting all social connections or isolating herself. It means being intentional about who she allows into her life. She surrounds herself with people who respect her for who she is, rather than for who they want her to be. This selectiveness fosters relationships based on mutual understanding, respect, and sincerity, creating a life filled with meaningful connections. Even if her circle is small, living authentically also means accepting that her journey will differ from others. Society often pushes women towards certain timelines and milestones, but a woman who embraces her individuality knows that there's no universal timeline for happiness or success. She follows her unique journey at her own pace, focusing on her personal growth, happiness, and self-defined achievements. This mindset shift brings immense peace and integrity, as she is no longer making choices based on what others expect of her, but on what genuinely feels right. This authenticity relieves her from the pressure to uphold unrealistic standards. She doesn't put on a facade to fit into a particular mold. She shows up as her true self, and this openness attracts the right people and opportunities. When a woman lives authentically, she becomes a role model, inspiring others through her courage. By resisting the pressure to conform, she subtly gives others permission to embrace their uniqueness. This ripple effect encourages others to question societal norms and seek their own paths. Living authentically is about self-trust and knowing that her value doesn't come from external sources, but from within. She doesn't need validation from friends or society to feel worthy. She recognizes her worth and chooses a life that honors it. This decision to live according to her own values is an act of self-love. It's a declaration that her peace, happiness, and fulfillment matter more than meeting anyone else's expectations. In choosing this path, she finds true freedom, the freedom to pursue her passions and create a life that resonates with her own sense of purpose. One of the greatest benefits of solitude is the chance to develop emotional resilience and independence. Without constant companionship, she learns to navigate her inner world on her own terms. This self-reliance, while initially challenging, soon becomes her greatest asset. In a world where people often look outward for support or validation, a woman who has walked alone learns to rely on herself, building a foundation of inner strength. From her inner struggles, she learns to become her own source of stability. When surrounded by friends, it's easy to lean on others during tough times. But when friendships are scarce, she's compelled to look inward for answers, strength, and calm. This journey builds a kind of emotional resilience that is unparalleled. Resilience is the capacity to bounce back from adversity to face life's challenges without being overwhelmed. A woman who finds strength in solitude develops resilience from within, becoming her own anchor. This doesn't mean she suppresses her emotions. Instead, she faces them directly, learning to manage them in healthy and productive ways. Living this way authentically and resiliently leads to a life that is rich in self-discovery, meaning, and personal strength. She crafts a life that is truly worth living, built on her own terms, and for her own fulfillment. When a woman embraces solitude, she becomes more deeply in tune with her emotions, without the distractions of constant social interaction. This solitude provides her with the space to fully process her feelings, learning to sit with discomfort and navigate sadness, anger, or fear without relying on others for comfort. This emotional independence empowers her to understand that she doesn't need external validation to cope with her emotions. She learns to manage her inner landscape on her own, building an unshakable inner strength that makes her less vulnerable to life's ups and downs. When a woman trusts her ability to handle her emotions, she becomes more resilient and less dependent on others for security or happiness. This resilience allows her to face challenges head-on without feeling defeated. While she still experiences pain and hardship, she has developed tools to process these emotions without feeling powerless. Solitude also helps her to set boundaries, something that can be difficult when constantly surrounded by people without the pressure to please others or to maintain harmony. A woman who has embraced solitude learns to prioritize her emotional well-being. She understands that she doesn't need to sacrifice her peace for relationships that drain her or compromise her happiness. Through solitude, she gains the clarity to recognize what truly matters and the courage to enforce boundaries without guilt. This independence doesn't mean she isolates herself from relationships. Instead, it allows her to approach them from a place of wholeness and inner strength, not out of need or insecurity. She no longer seeks others to fill emotional gaps in her life, because she's done the work of filling those gaps herself. This inner security brings a healthy detachment, where she values connections, but doesn't cling to them out of fear of being alone. Her comfort with herself radiates into her relationships, allowing her to connect from a place of authenticity. Another powerful aspect of this resilience is her ability to handle rejection and disappointment with grace. When life throws challenges her way, she doesn't crumble, because she's learned to stand strong in solitude. If a relationship doesn't work out, or if someone lets her down, she has the strength to pick herself back up. This adaptability makes her more grounded, less shaken by life's inevitable twists and turns. Independence and solitude also help her develop a stronger sense of self-worth. Without seeking constant validation, she sees her value in a deeper, more meaningful way. Her worth is no longer tied to her social circle or others' opinions, but comes from within, rooted in her character, integrity, and resilience. This inner validation surpasses any praise or approval others could give her. Through this journey of emotional resilience and independence, she gains greater self-awareness. Solitude enables her to understand her own needs, strengths, and vulnerabilities, allowing her to make more intentional choices in her life and relationships. This emotional independence empowers her to understand that she doesn't need external validation to cope with her emotions. She learns to manage her inner landscape on her own, building an unshakable inner strength that makes her less vulnerable to life's ups and downs. When a woman trusts her ability to handle her emotions, she becomes more resilient and less dependent on others for security or happiness. This resilience allows her to face challenges head-on without feeling defeated. While she still experiences pain and hardship, she has developed tools to process these emotions without feeling powerless. Solitude also helps her to set boundaries, something that can be difficult when constantly surrounded by people without the pressure to please others or to maintain harmony. A woman who has embraced solitude learns to prioritize her emotional well-being. She understands that she doesn't need to sacrifice her peace for relationships that drain her or compromise her happiness. Through solitude, she gains the clarity to recognize what truly matters and the courage to enforce boundaries without guilt. This independence doesn't mean she isolates herself from relationships. Instead, it allows her to approach them from a place of wholeness and inner strength, not out of need or insecurity. She no longer seeks others to fill emotional gaps in her life, because she's done the work of filling those gaps herself. This inner security brings a healthy detachment, where she values connections, but doesn't cling to them out of fear of being alone. Her comfort with herself radiates into her relationships, allowing her to connect from a place of authenticity. Another powerful aspect of this resilience is her ability to handle rejection and disappointment with grace. When life throws challenges her way, she doesn't crumble, because she's learned to stand strong in solitude. If a relationship doesn't work out, or if someone lets her down, she has the strength to pick herself back up. This adaptability makes her more grounded, less shaken by life's inevitable twists and turns. Independence and solitude also help her develop a stronger sense of self-worth. Without seeking constant validation, she sees her value in a deeper, more meaningful way. Her worth is no longer tied to her social circle or others' opinions, but comes from within, rooted in her character, integrity, and resilience. This inner validation surpasses any praise or approval others could give her. Through this journey of emotional resilience and independence, she gains greater self-awareness. Solitude enables her to understand her own needs, strengths, and vulnerabilities, allowing her to make more intentional choices in her life and relationships. She emerges with a profound sense of self, a confidence that her worth is self-defined, and a resilience that sustains her through life's challenges. This growth in solitude is transformative, grounding her in her inner strength and enabling her to live a life that is rich with authenticity and purpose. As a woman embraces solitude, she gains a deeper understanding of her emotional triggers, patterns, and strengths. In this space, she learns what brings her joy, fulfillment, and peace, enabling her to build a life that centers around her own values rather than seeking external validation. This self-awareness becomes a powerful tool, equipping her to navigate life with intention and clarity. Solitude offers her the gift of emotional resilience and independence, making her unbreakable. She's no longer swayed by others' opinions, nor does she depend on outside support to feel secure. Instead, she finds strength and growth within herself, realizing that true power is internal. No matter what life brings, she knows she has the inner resources to face it with grace and resilience, leading to a deeper peace with herself and the world around her. Walking alone also allows her to prioritize her growth and well-being in ways that are often overshadowed by the noise of social expectations. In this quiet space, she can focus on what genuinely matters to her and nourish her soul. Free from external obligations, she has the freedom to ask herself profound questions. What do I truly want from life? What brings me happiness? What areas do I want to improve? These reflections often get lost in the busy demands of friendships, family, or societal pressures. Solitude gives her the chance to turn inward, focusing solely on her own growth and well-being. Personal growth here goes beyond career achievements. It includes emotional, spiritual, and mental evolution. She builds self-awareness, examining her thoughts and behaviors without external influences. She learns that self-care is not just pampering, but essential nurturing of her mind, body, and spirit. She begins to prioritize activities that recharge her energy: exercise, meditation, reading, journaling, or spending time in nature. This routine of true self-care grounds her, creating an inner peace that becomes the foundation of her life. She also learns the value of being intentional with her time, choosing to fill her days with pursuits that contribute to her well-being and align with her values. Through solitude, she gains the clarity and courage to set boundaries, recognizing where she might have been overextending herself. She becomes comfortable saying no to preserve her peace and prioritizing her own needs without guilt. This boundary setting itself becomes an act of self-care, fostering a healthy balance between relationships and personal well-being. One of the most empowering shifts in this journey is her newfound self-trust. Without constant outside input, she learns to rely on her own judgment and intuition, making decisions based on what feels right for her. This self-trust empowers her to move through life with confidence and certainty, embracing a life led by her own truth. In her journey of solitude, a woman evolves into someone who is deeply in tune with her inner voice, no longer needing validation from others to feel complete. This growing self-trust and self-respect transform the way she sees herself, leading her to hold herself to higher standards. In every aspect of her life, she recognizes her worth and refuses to settle for anything less than she deserves. This newfound respect becomes her compass, guiding her through challenges with a sense of dignity and grace that only comes from within. Solitude also gives her the opportunity to cultivate a profound sense of purpose. Free from external influences, she has the space to explore what truly drives her, what passions set her soul on fire, and the legacy she wants to leave behind. This clarity of purpose not only fuels her personal growth, but also gives her the motivation to push forward, even when the journey is difficult. Living with purpose allows her to stay focused on her long-term goals rather than getting lost in daily distractions. She sees the bigger picture and makes decisions that align with her vision, which brings a deep sense of fulfillment, as she knows every step is a meaningful contribution to her growth. Walking alone allows her to understand that prioritizing her growth and well-being is not selfish, it's necessary. Through self-discovery, self-care, and self-respect, she becomes her best self. By nurturing her own needs, she is not isolating herself from others, but rather gaining the strength to show up more fully in her relationships and pursuits. She becomes stronger, more resilient, and more capable of achieving her dreams while living an authentic life. Ultimately, choosing to walk alone is not a sign of weakness but of strength. It is a powerful journey that leads her toward self-discovery, emotional resilience, and independence. Through solitude, she finds clarity, strength, and an unwavering sense of self-worth. She learns to trust her instincts, set healthy boundaries, and live a life aligned with her purpose. She emerges as someone whole within herself, able to face the world with confidence, grace, and a quiet power that radiates from the strength of her inner foundation.